Episode 250, Trauma in the Body, Exploring Somatic Experiencing with Jill Freestone.
Welcome to Latter-day Life Coaches, the podcast where each episode is a conversation between me, Heather Rackham, and one of my amazing coach colleagues. Each coach here is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and a highly trained, experienced life coach making a great impact in the lives of their clients. And together, we have one main goal, helping you live your best life no matter what. You ready for this conversation with a coach? Here we go.
In this deeply informative and experiential episode, life and emotion coach Jill Freestone returns to explore somatic experiencing, a powerful body-based trauma healing modality developed by Peter Levine. Jill shares the origins and science behind SE, explains the difference between trauma and traumatic stress, and illustrates key concepts such as titration, pendulation, and the body's innate ability to process and heal. Listeners will walk away with a new understanding of how trauma is stored in the nervous system, why talk therapy isn't always enough, and how somatic tools can restore a sense of agency, safety, and emotional regulation. Jill also shares personal stories, including her own healing around a traumatic birth, and gives listeners real-time practices to begin reconnecting to their bodies in gentle, compassionate ways. Please enjoy.
Hey friends, welcome to the podcast today. I'm joined by Coach Jill Freestone. Hey Jill, how you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. I just got to run into Jill recently in person, which doesn't happen very often, but we were both at the Faith Matters Restore conference, and it was fun to get to see you.
Yeah.
You were working at a booth there. Tell me what booth you were helping at.
Lift and love,
Okay, that's I
LDS,
yep.
LGBT.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it was fantastic, and it was fun to get to see people there too and connect. So thank you. Thank you for your time in doing that and making it something that other people can experience as well. So Jill has been on before, and I'm going to have her just share a little bit about herself. And she has some really fantastic past episodes that you are going to want to check out if you haven't heard them. But Jill, before we swing into this conversation, can you tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. So I have been a anger and big emotion and relationship coach for over 7 years now. And I just continue to add trainings along the way. And somatic experiencing practitioner is one that's a 3-year training that we're going to be talking about today. And I'm also working on my master's in marriage and family therapy. So that's another fun addition. And the thing that excites me in all of my work is where big emotions such as anxiety and anger usually interact with relationships and how that makes it hard for us to communicate and how it affects the relationship with ourselves and with others. And so I work with family groups or individuals or like parent-child, parent-teen, and helping them understand where the nervous system and the emotion is making it hard to deal with life or with the relationships. And yeah, that's probably good. Oh, well, I also lead drum circles, and the aspect there that connects in with the big emotions and how we can use the vibrations and the movement to process big emotions.
So I love all the different modalities. There's so many different ways that people can, and we talked about this before in one of the past podcasts, but some things don't work for people, right? They'll be like, well, I've tried everything and it didn't help me. I didn't make the progress or the movement that I wanted. And it's important to like find the thing that is helpful for you. And like there's so many different avenues, drum circles. There's so many different ways that we don't even know about. So I love being able to expose people to different avenues of help. So anyway, and you have a lot of those in your tool belt. So
And
all
sometimes
right.
it's just the timing. Like sometimes you try
Yeah.
something that doesn't work at that time in your life, but it could work later. Or maybe it's
Yeah.
just not an avenue for you.
Yeah, that's a great point though, too, because I think we all recognize that we're more open to things at different phases and different stages of our life. So that's a really good point. So today I think we are talking about somatic experiences and what that can look like for us. So maybe you could just start and give us a little bit of an explanation about what that is.
Yeah. So there's just like the word somatic and somatic experiences is a word that we use for all kinds of modalities. But the specific term somatic experiencing is something that's been created by Peter Levine. And a somatic experiencing practitioner is a certification and title that you can get. So
Okay.
somatic just means having to do with the body, and an experience is something we go through, right? But
Mhm.
somatic experiencing is actually a modality, a process of healing trauma.
Okay.
So it's a body-based method. So that's where the focus is, and it treats stress, trauma, shock, things that accumulate in the body and the nervous system. So it's a bottom up strategy, meaning we start with the body instead of top down, which was more life coach school, starting with head and thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And bottom up actually is most of how we function in our life. And most of us are not aware of that. And the research has continuing lately to show that most of our experience, most of our interactions, like body language interactions that informs us way more than words and thoughts. And our emotions come from the bottom up way more than top down. And it's just the more we learn, right? The more we grow and understand that. So the specific method helps individuals create new experiences, or having a new experience in your body that's the opposite of those of tension and overwhelming helplessness. So we're actually trying to help them have a new experience that can then rewire things. And so it means that healing isn't about reclaiming those memories or changing our thoughts and beliefs about like how we feel or what the experience was like. It's about exploring the sensations that lie underneath our feelings and beliefs, as well as habitual behavior patterns. So from the SE website, it says it's a naturalistic and neurobiological body-oriented approach to healing trauma and other stress-related disorders, restoring the authentic self with self-regulation, relaxation, wholeness, and aliveness. And aliveness, you might think, well, we're all alive and have aliveness, but there's actually a lot of us that are walking around without that, without realizing that we're in a level of automatic or even functional freeze. And so then the rest of that goes on to say trauma affects the brain, mind, and body. However, the body often is neglected in the psychotherapy of trauma. And SE is just somatic experiencing, if I use that abbreviation. So trauma from an SE lens is focused on how it shows up in the nervous system and how that dysregulation impacts life. So it teaches that trauma is not caused by the event itself, but rather develops from the failure of the body, mind, and spirit and nervous system to process extreme events or even little events. It's the failure of us to completely process them and move through them. So trauma is not what happens to you, but it's how the body gets stuck in a trauma response when you are alone in your experience or you're unable to process the stress response in your body. So then the body can get stuck in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And then we can be living our lives normally, but occasionally experience symptoms that look like chronic illness or anxiety or pain or big anger or health chronic issues that are showing up, but they're actually rooted in trauma. So SE uses the body to process the trauma, to complete the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, instead of other methods that mainly use the brain to talk through the details and like think through what happened. So the client doesn't need to focus on or tell all the details, which sometimes can re-traumatize, but instead you're able to move through the response in your body, which unwinds and rewires the symptoms of what they're experiencing, and it helps you release, recover, and become more resilient.
Okay. So I'm assuming that this is not something that somatic experiencing isn't something that can just be done to heal past experiences. I don't know the right word to use there, but past trauma, I guess, but is also something you can learn so that you don't get stuck in that process now. So it can do both, right? Past and present.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Exactly. I use it all the time for myself or my family members when I see them stuck in something. Or 2 years ago, my husband actually hit someone while driving in a car, and I rushed over to the other person. She was in a full panic and her whole body was shaking. And so I talked her through and helped her to complete that in safety with another person because she was alone and she was
Mm.
mid-20s and just really panicking and
Mm.
terrified. And so, yeah, and so I was explaining to her, even though her brain can't listen, but I was trying to, in short words, help her to feel safe with me, even though I was a stranger, and to find safety in her body in that car until someone came to her that she knew, like her family was coming, and then gave her some suggestions of what to do later. I don't know how much her brain could comprehend in that state
Right.
but I was trying to help her come into her body and move through it. So for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I know you mentioned who created somatic experiencing, but can you tell us the story of, you shared a little bit, I think, with me, but like,
Mhm.
can you tell the story of when he or why he,
Yeah,
first even
yeah.
experimented with it?
Yeah. So I think it's important to explain the difference between big T and little T trauma. That just popped into my head. I explained this in several other podcasts,
Yes.
but
Yeah, but you could maybe just give us a
yeah, so
like short synopsis.
like big T trauma is what most people think of when they hear trauma, like a natural disaster or war, PTSD, abuse, a big wreck. That's an event, and that does create trauma, but not always. But little T trauma is Peter's definition is how the body experiences it, no matter what the event is.
Hmm.
Because some people can be in one of those experiences and not come out traumatized. And so, what it is anything, even just getting yelled at or being embarrassed or public speaking, where you didn't have the skills or you were alone to complete the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So I
Okay.
just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
And that also, this model is used in multiple professions, and that's why it's called a practitioner. So there are therapists that use it, but there are also coaches, teachers, physical therapists, body workers, massage therapists, first responders, rolfers, yoga instructors. But each person is supposed to only practice within their scope of practice.
Okay. You said something I hadn't heard before. Rolfers, is that?
Rolfing with an R.
I've not heard of that.
Yeah, it's similar to massage therapy and body working. And yeah, you'll have to look it up.
Okay, I will. I
It's a
will.
long conversation, but yeah, there were people there at my training, and yeah, it's another interesting way of working with the body. But just anyway, so that scope of practice might be interesting in this conversation, because some people will be like, why is she working with trauma? And wait, that's a therapist job. I have my scope of practice as well, meaning that there's trauma that's underneath anxiety and anger that I need to be aware of, and I can use somatic experiencing, being trained in it, to work with this level, like
Hmm.
within here and here. If it's a bigger one, I'm referring out. So just
Right.
that. So yeah. So Peter Levine, in the 1970s, he created the somatic experiencing, and his background is that he holds a doctorate of biophysics from Berkeley and a doctorate of psychology. And he's also the founder and president of Ergos Institute of Somatic Education. And he's also the founder and advisor of the Somatic Experiencing International. That's where the people are trained. That's where I've been trained. So like there's 30,000 healers in over 42 countries. So it's a really big thing, even though still
Yeah.
people don't know about it. He has several books. I'll just, instead of reading them, I'll just let people look up his name, Peter Levine. Incredible books, really fascinating to understand the work. But in the 1960s, he started his work in a private practice, focusing on the mind and body awareness and stress reduction. That was what he was first looking at. And he was refining his techniques to specifically engage in the innate capacity we have to rebound from exposure to life threat and overwhelming events. And he was trying to understand this. And he got this idea to study the stress on the animal's nervous system. And he discovered that animals are constantly under the threat of death, but they don't show symptoms of trauma. And so he's trying to figure out why, and we're also animals, why do we have this? And he noticed that after a threat had passed, the animals experience a physical release of the survival energy, the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, by shaking, trembling, running, doing those things. And so after they complete that physical release, they quickly return to their pre-threatened state and they're okay. So then he starts thinking, oh, how can we apply this to humans? And so there's a video that I may have shared with you that we look at a lot of these videos in our training that there's this impala that is being chased by a hyena, and also a cheetah is coming in, and they're fighting over the impala, and they both like bite down on the impala, and the impala plays dead. And it's just laying there limp, looks like it's dead. And they like grab it in its mouth, wiggle it around, and they get bored eventually and they leave because it looks and it seems like it's dead. And then the video is just still for a minute. And then it shows the impala laying there dead. It's breathing. You can see its body starts breathing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger breathing. And then the whole body starts shaking, 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 shaking. And it just gets huge. And then it slows down. And then it just pops up and hops away like normal. And maybe you've seen a cat do this. Like it's a pretty normal thing in nature, or like a bird that hits a window. And just nature has instilled this in animals and humans. We have this same capacity, but because of our cultural standards and norms and fear and being correct, like we've stopped that. And so we have a nervous system that is capable of restoring balance. So we have this rational mind that's like, I shouldn't be doing that. And we're overriding our instinctual response. We try to keep it together and we don't want to lose control. So that's
fun.
Very interesting, right?
Yeah, it is really interesting. And just goes to show that we have all the tools. I just always think we have everything inside of us that we need. We just have to we just got to find it. We got to like uncover all the layers and figure us out, because Heavenly Father has equipped us with everything that we need.
Totally. And I think you can imagine a time when you feel some kind of threat. Like we mobilize a lot of energy to protect and defend ourselves. Like we're going to duck, we're going to dodge, we're going to twist and stiffen, we're going to retract. And we either fight or we flee or we freeze or we collapse. But we do those things. But as we're trying to self-protect, we're ineffective. Often we go into this freeze where we just shut down because we weren't able to see the benefit of our actions. And that can get stuck in us. And that is also a way that it gets blocked too, as well. And so we often just kind of are in this limbo of not fully re-engaging in life after something that was very threatening or overwhelming happens to us. And we actually experience this daily by being on our phones, like watching really traumatic things all the time, or movies, or hearing about live events. Just this last 2 weeks, so much has been going on that are real. And most of us are not doing things to process that. We're just moving through our life. So
I think, unfortunately, it's a lot of it's starting to feel normal. And so we probably don't even recognize that there is work that can be done there.
Yeah. That's very scary. And it's true.
Yeah.
Yes. So just, I guess, explaining a little bit more, the method offers a way to address the completion of these self-protective responses within the nervous system. And it's a very gentle process that releases that thwarted or stuck survival energy. And we want to do this so that there can be a normal cycling of alertness and rest again. And then we can prepare for the next time we need to react. Mm-hmm. So Peter was doing the research on the animals, and he had a client in 1969 where he had the image of the tiger come up in his mind, where this lady named Nancy was suffering from an array of physical and anxiety symptoms. And this was the first time he experimented in a session with a client. And while she's talking about all the things she's dealing with, suddenly she froze. So her body is in a stuck position, but her pulse went really high and then abruptly plummeted down as she was in her mind revisiting the moments of a traumatic childhood surgery. And she had been bound and anesthetized, and her body was remembering this, because with somatic experiencing, like when you're under anesthesia, you can still hear and your body still remembers what's happening, even if you don't have a mental memory of it. So anyway, her body is panicking, and then her brain starts panicking. She says, I'm going to die. Please don't let me die, which is the feeling her body had when it was bound and under the anesthesia during a surgery. And Dr. Levine suddenly had the image of the charging tiger. And she said, he said to her, Nancy, you're being chased by a tiger. Run, run, climb those rocks to safety. And in that moment, Nancy heard him and she started moving her legs really fast. And he saw that she could tap into that innate ability we have to heal by completing that self-protective act. She was stuck and bound during the surgery, but her body was telling her, this is dangerous, get away. But she couldn't because she was stuck. So then she acted that way and ran, and she completed that. And the body had been overwhelmed and frozen in that regard, stuck there for 20 years that she didn't realize, so she's having anxiety throughout her life and anxiety attacks, but it was just this surgery that we could go back and finish that situation. So then on a repeated follow-up with Nancy, that single session had a dramatic impact on her life. Like the panic attacks went away, the agoraphobia, the migraines, and she had a new sense of living. It isn't often in one session that things are just healed like that. Usually it takes a lot of work to build someone up to the place where they can do something like that. But once we get to that moment, usually it can be a session right there of processing through it. And I've had that experience myself as a client there. So then the tiger awakened has become a symbol of our aliveness and our innate nature in somatic experiencing. So like the way the tiger is a symbol that he uses. So he was also the first person to bring trauma into the awareness of the nervous system regulation instead of just emergency room trauma. And, since then, there's plenty of people that are studying trauma. But one thing that he said that was really interesting was that vets didn't call it PTSD originally. They called it PTSI, meaning post-traumatic stress injury. Instead of a disorder, it was an injury. And so when we feel overwhelmed or paralyzed by terror or loss or overloaded in some way, we're unable to make sense of what's going on and live normally. That's an injury to us. And there are ways to heal from injuries. So for example, when you have a broken bone, you put a cast on it, and we don't say that the doctor healed it necessarily. He provided the support, which was the cast, which engaged the body's own capacity to heal and grow stronger. And so that's how Peter looks at trauma. It's an injury that if we can provide the supports for it, the body can move through that. But we have to create the container for it to feel safe to do that.
Why did it switch to being called
Post
a disorder? Yeah. Like it feels so much more helpful
Does that feel
to
beautiful?
look at it. Yeah. It feels so different when you look at it as an injury versus a disorder. I don't know.
Well, it's the same as ADHD. There's people trying to change that to VAST. Have you read ADHD 2.0?
I have not.
It's a fantastic book where they're trying to call it variable attention. Oh, I forgot the last two letters, but it's just a type of attention instead of a disorder.
Okay.
Same concept, like let's get some better words here that are going to help people with shame.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know the history of how it shifted
to
disorder, but yeah, so that we can re-engage the nervous system back into normal life. So we're wanting to move through that back into normal life. And I just have a few quotes from Peter that I really like. He says, trauma results when arousal is too much, too quickly, too soon, or too little, too slowly. The body has been designed to renew itself through continuous self-correction. These same principles apply to the healing of psyche, spirit, and soul. And trauma is a fact of life. It does not have to be a life sentence. And you do not have to know the facts of your story to be able to reprogram the symptoms or the outcomes. And animals do not view freezing as a sign of inadequacy or weakness, nor should we. And the last one, when a person is exposed to overwhelming stress, threat, or injury, they develop a procedural memory. So procedural means it's an implicit memory that helps us to do things automatically, like riding a bike. We do it without consciously thinking about each step. So when we go through some kind of stress or threat or injury, there is some kind of memory in our body that we then respond without realizing it when something similar happens. And that becomes implicit automatic. So trauma occurs when these implicit procedures are not neutralized and moved through. So it's a failure to restore homeostasis. And that's how the maladaptive and debilitating symptoms of trauma come up.
Okay. Those are all really interesting
Yeah. Any questions?
quotes. And no, I will say I have a fly that like is kamikazing me. So I apologize if anybody's watching this on YouTube and they're wondering why I'm swatting. It's because there's a fly that won't leave me alone.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Anyway, sorry, I disrailed our conversation with the fly, but let's keep going. I mean, maybe tell us a little bit what your training was like and why it's, important for us. I mean, I guess I can gather from what you've said why somatic experiencing is important for people,
Mhm.
but maybe you could give us a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. So it's spread over 3 years. It doesn't take the whole 3 years to do it, but the reason they do that is to make it actually trauma informed so that you have time to learn and actually digest and internalize the concepts and actually practice to become someone who can embody it as a practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
Because we could like put it all together and get it done in a short period of time, but we're just learning information in our head then. We're
Right.
not actually putting it into our body.
Experiencing it, right? You're
Experience
experiencing it. You're living it. You're
Yeah,
internalizing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So then throughout those 3 years, you have assignments to practice being a client, so many hours and so many to be the practitioner, and then do group consultations where you get on and ask questions about your clients. So in the first year, you have 3-week-long online, all day long trainings. And that you focus on learning the content and the techniques. The first half of the day is education. Then the teacher will do a live demo. Then in the afternoon, you get set up into triads where you each take a turn being a practitioner, the client, the observer, and then there's an assistant in the group with you. And you rotate through each of those. And that's just like amazing practice with direct feedback, and it's exhausting too, to do each of those roles and actually experience it, actually watch it happening, and then be the leader too. And you do that every day of the week. And then the second year, you do the same 3 whole weeks that are spread out throughout the second year. And then you focus on learning all the different types of traumas and all the things that can come up, the things to be aware of, more content, more techniques. And then the third year, it's 2 full weeks that are longer in person. So you have to fly somewhere all day long, same setup of practicing in triads in the afternoons of each day, taking turns like that. So you get a lot of experience and a lot of understanding. And then in the third year too, they also bring in physical touch, of ways to safely support someone with physical touch. And it's very simple, but that is also part of what happens. And a beautiful thing I learned in these trainings that are so different from any other conference or training I've been to is that because it's about the body, they teach us that we learn better when our body is in a relaxed state. And so they say, take care of yourself, eat, move, drink, listen to your body, and do what it says. And so you see us on the cameras, like, they're like, oh, great, look at so-and-so with a pillow, or like reclined here, or stretching here, or, out on my grass. And so carrying my laptop around and moving. And like in the US, we've been through all these years of compulsory schooling. Like, we must sit up straight. We must have your eyes on the teacher. You need to be taking notes, don't eat, don't take a break. And it's really hard to feel okay doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was so, so obvious what a difference that made. And then when I went to the in-person experience, they did it again. And they said, please do that. And to see people in the back moving around, or I got on the floor because I learned great on the floor, and I'm stretching and moving, and to feel free to take care of myself. Wow, like I really do. You learn better. I remember years ago when we'd go to Dallas for the twice a year life coach school trainings, and we're just sitting there, and it was so hard. So as an invitation to you, can you tune into your body? And is there something that your body wants right now, and see if you could do it and see how that feels?
You're asking me?
Yeah. You're like, what?
Yeah, I know. No, my body right now, I'd be like, let's go take a nap. I've been waking up super early, not for any reason other than my body's just been waking me up and I'm like up. And so anyway, but by this
Body's
time of day, I'm
tired.
like,
Yeah, you're
yeah,
like, I want a nap.
yeah. So right now I'm like, my body wants a nap. I can feel it.
Yeah. So what if you just like leaned into your chair a little bit and allowed some softening? Yeah, and like just a moment of eyes closed.
Yeah. I'm afraid I might fall asleep.
Yeah, I'll keep talking to you. But even just for like 5 seconds of just,
Okay.
oh, I'm allowing my body to just settle. I know that in this interview, I'm doing a podcast. It's not the right time to sleep. But what if I just allow that for a moment? Yeah. And as you do that, what do you notice? Anything?
I just seem to calm down a little bit. It's like, oh, there's a little bit of stillness or peace, I guess,
Yeah.
maybe.
Maybe
Yeah.
just scan the rest of your body. Like, is there any part of your body that feels kind of like it's holding still because it has to, but it actually wants to do something different? Like maybe you want to sit crisscross instead, or maybe you want to move your legs, or maybe you want to stretch a little bit and then come back to being in the normal sitting position. Like, is there anything it's asked your body was like, oh, that'd be nice? Or like a big
Um,
yawn.
yeah, my feet are like wanting to move, like to go
Yeah.
for a walk, right? Like I can
Yeah. So like
feel
let them do
my
some
leg.
moving,
Yeah.
just like some walking steps while we're
Yeah.
talking. Like, oh, I can let my feet do that.
Yeah.
And it's this, I'm tuning into my body, I'm listening to it while I'm doing other things, and I'm allowing that to happen. And I'm making a mental note, oh, I'm going to go lay down after, even if it's just a little
Yeah.
15 minutes. My body wants a little more rest.
And it is interesting. Oh my gosh, I think there's 10 flies coming after me.
You need to get a swatter.
I need a swatter. But no, it is interesting to like you think, oh, my body can't tell me anything, but that's so not true. If you just kind of tune into it, you do feel a sensation that
Mm-hmm.
you want to do. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that out loud because there's people
Yeah.
that are probably listening like, oh,
What is she
for,
talking about?
yeah, what is, but it's true. So,
Yeah, there
anyway,
is a natural, it's just an instinctive impulse that the body talks to you.
yeah.
Feel that.
Especially when you ask it. I
Yes.
felt like that when I
Yes.
actually asked my body rather than just sitting there. But once
Yes.
I like you said, okay, let's take a scan and let's actually look. Like it's like you're giving your body permission to show you.
Yeah, like I want to know. I'm open
Yeah.
to listening right now.
Yeah.
Instead of just doing, I'm
Yeah.
in the open listening.
Hmm.
Yeah, good job trying that. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so you asked me, why is it important for us? Yeah, why are we talking about this on a life coach podcast? For me, I use this with all of my clients, and especially when we're working with big emotions. But when anxiety is present in a client and they don't remember why or can't remember what caused it or if anything did, SE can help because it doesn't require us to know or to retell the experience. We don't have to have a conscious memory to have profound and significant healing. It also gently guides clients to develop increasing tolerance for difficult body sensations and for suppressed emotions. So that's crucial for everybody we work with.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
this capacity building, which instead of just like, oh, feel your feelings, a lot of people need help developing capacity. And that's a lot of what the work is. So we accomplish this by first focusing on building a foundation of support, or like resourcing is the word. Like, how resourced is your client? Do they have the skill, the capacity, the willingness to feel the discomfort, so that we can help them feel safe enough to try to feel in their body? Like, a lot of what I work is helping people get to that point. SE is done very slow, small steps. Like, and that's part of why they stretch it over 3 years to like dip our toe in, experience, dip your toe in, experience. And so it helps your body actually have the capacity to be with deeper and deeper layers and still be able to remain present with your physical senses. So it's so easy to step out with our brain when something becomes uncomfortable. So it's building that capacity so then I can help my clients be in their body with those big emotions, and then find out if there is more under that instead of just a typical emotion.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I would just look for that and then we would be able to process that or not.
Okay. You said it's a slow process, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but it's a slow process. But are there things that you do to help people find, I don't want to use the word immediate, but maybe quicker relief rather than, I mean, because that's what everybody wants, right? We want something more.
Slow process.
I don't want a slow process. I want something. And I recognize that it is a slow process, but oftentimes there are things that we can do to kind of help in a
So what I
moment.
mean by slow, there's a difference between the amount of weeks or how slowly we're moving through something within one session.
Okay, gotcha.
So what might be what I'm talking about is if someone might say, "Oh, feel where that is in your body, name the emotion." They name it, they feel it for a little bit, and then they move on to the next thing. Where with SE, we might be sitting there for 10 whole minutes.
Gotcha.
Very slowly coming at all different angles and sensations and allowing it to increase and decrease and see what happens when we try different things. We're staying with it longer, and we're going in and out of something that's uncomfortable and uncomfortable. And so that might, for some people, like my first SE session, I was like, it didn't feel like we were doing anything. We're just kind of like feeling things. and And so you're used to like life coach school, like we talk about something, we solve it, and we think differently. Like this is so different where we're trying to create long-term physical change. You can't just talk through it, right?
Right. I mean, it took long term to get to this point, right? So it's
Yeah.
not going to just be like quick,
Yeah.
whatever. We like
Yeah.
things as humans, we like things wrapped up in little neat packages and
Yeah.
just okay, we got it all tied together. It's all good, but
Right.
it
And
doesn't
so
happen that way.
for example, because I've been practicing this skill for a long time, if I have a specific thing that comes up, I could go into a session as a client and I don't have to do the groundwork to learn how to do it. And I could just go to processing it right away. And it could be just one session. That's very different versus, but it would also be a very slow feeling, more of like there's more silence and then there's more just physical sensations allowing instead of lots of talking.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So what we want to do is try and experiment to see if the body can do what it needed to do, but it couldn't do. So like, so that you could feel safe and get away or move your feet or reach out to someone or speak out or say someone. And even though you're no longer in that situation, the cells in your body are still connected to that event. And so if you engage in some kind of action, then the body experiences this deep sense of calm and relief on a cellular level that is a physical sensation that you can't experience by simply talking about it.
Okay.
So you're like, your question, who can benefit from it? Like everyone during every session. Like Peter Levine teaches that SE is how you do what you do. It isn't a tool that you're like, oh, now I'm using SE and now I'm not. And then you let it go. Like it's a way that you interact, and it's like a lens that you look through. And it's something you are doing the whole time you're with someone. It's how you are. And so it really changed it, like how I am and how I interact with others and clients.
I think that's the best way to put it, right? It just changes. It becomes a part of you as somebody who is facilitating somebody and helping a client. Yeah, yeah, it's not something you do. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. And there's specific techniques that you would pull out.
Right, right,
But the how you do it is all there.
right. It just becomes part of you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So can you explain to us maybe some of the concepts or the techniques used in somatic experiencing?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the overall aspect of it being very trauma informed is really important. And so since it's a body-based modality, for processing trauma, there was a lot of education that they gave us about how the body might be affected, things for us to watch for. And so then, like when I would do in-person events or like a drum circle or teaching a class, I would have thoughts come to mind from my training of, oh, if I say this way, that could be triggering for some people. Oh, if I don't create this kind of safety in this group first, they could be triggered. So like there's these just information that I have of saying, like, for example, in my drum circle, I would act in a certain way to try to create safety. Like, I can't create safety for everyone, but I would do my best to create that and say, I'll give you offers, but you don't have to do anything. You can stay in your chair. You don't have to follow exactly what I do. You don't have to do it exactly right. If you feel like making noise, great. You have options. That kind of thing gives people safety to make choices and feel more in charge. So a lot of SE is trying to help people have choices. So another thing that like life coach school may have taught of like, ask them where they feel that in the body, name the emotions. But if I come in with too strong of a conviction or belief that it's my job to get people into their body, that can be a conflict with their protective need to keep us out. And so just being aware and very sensitive to find a flow, like when is the client open? What things can I set up so that they can be open instead of just, I know what's right and I need to get you into your body and feel this. So it's this sensing and flowing and awareness. And if somebody's describing something really challenging, I wouldn't want to bring them right into their body in that moment either of thinking about timing, because I would want to help them create a helpful and not a harmful connection with their body too. So usually when people come to me with anxiety or anger, for example, we practice these skills not with anger and anxiety. We practice them with something that's smaller or a little easier for them, because those bigger ones have sensations or experiences that are scary to them.
Yeah.
And so that's one approach about it. The other is the goal isn't to regulate their nervous system or calm them down. This term regulate, I put quotes on it, to use your nervous system, gets tossed around a lot. And that's not the goal. Like, regulated doesn't mean calm. Regulated means able to flow through the different nervous system states. And so the nervous system's job is supporting us by helping us to be in the optimal state of arousal for whatever we're doing, whether that's excited, sympathetic, activated, or softer, parasympathetic, more relaxed. And so regulation is the capacity to respond appropriately to different environmental changes. And calm isn't always the best state to be in, but we get that kind of twisted of like, oh, I need to be regulated. I need to regulate myself. And so just clarifying that. So the term felt sense is one of the first concepts that we learn. And it's a term coined by Eugene Gendlin. And it just means a body-based experience or a bodily knowing. So like, instead of how you know something by thoughts, it's how you know something with your body. It's a physical experience, not a mental one. A bodily awareness of a situation or a person or event, like how you experience something from the inside, from the interior of your body in a wordless, non-cognitive way. So it's beyond thoughts and feelings behind it, but it's very significant and full of meaning. And it's a message from your body to you, like we were talking about earlier, and it will speak to you if you listen. So Peter Levine is saying the body's language is sensation, physical sensation. So you know how like a baby can only cry to communicate with you, and we understand that? Your body communicates through physical sensation. And so when you ask it what it needs, it will give you tighten, soften, heart rate, temperature change. It will give you that as its way to communicate with you. So that felt sense is us connecting with that and being with it while actively being grounded in the present moment. So
I really liked that analogy, like, because I can, like, a baby can only tell us what it wants by crying. That really resonates with me.
Yeah, and that can be frustrating too, because a cry can be difficult to listen to, which is the same thing as difficult emotions that are hard to feel.
Yeah.
But it's not bad. It's just a communication. Yeah. So interoception is another term for the term felt sense. So we're feeling from the inside, internal. And when the ability to stay grounded with the emotion feels challenged, like, oh, this is really uncomfortable, I don't want to be here, and we want to escape it, the somatic practitioner can support you in different regulating tools so that you can increase your tolerance to be with the internal experience. And so you stay with the physical sensation associated with an emotion, and you track how things change, and you study with curiosity what is supporting this regulation. And by engaging in this process over time with a variety of different emotions and sensations, you build your capacity to do it on your own, self-regulation, instead of co-regulation or working with the practitioner. So your capacity for self-regulation is what allows you to act from this empowered place, like I can choose, instead of reactive. Something happens, I just react. But no, like, oh, something's happening, and because of my practice, I drop into my body really quickly, and I'm noticing what's happening here, work with it, and then I come up here into my brain and choose what to do, instead of just this response, this reaction that just happens, and you're not in tune with what your body is feeling in the present moment. So the felt sense is the place where we can work with the painful symptoms to help them reside. And then the energy that these symptoms use to drain from us becomes available for more joy and more productive engagement with the world. And then we want to get a balance between positive and negative experiences, internal and external, and noticing which nervous system is dominant or what's the default. Like we all tend to have a default, like we're in sympathetic more, or we're in parasympathetic more, or fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. We have kind of what's more dominant. And can we help the client have a new or a different experience to expand that capacity and help them to see that none of these are bad, or stress isn't bad. It's just that we need to be able to regulate after or through. And can we go up and can we come back down? So then the next step would be to look in the client to find if they have incomplete self-protective responses. So then we practice that of finding that, and this incompletion continues to drive that trauma response in the future. And the nervous system doesn't know time, and it doesn't know that something has already ended, like a month ago, a year ago, a week ago, until we can actually complete that response. And if we can engineer a completion days, weeks, years later, we can actually find relief. So I'll give some examples. The first one is more of a suited for a therapist, but there was a man that had been keeping his sexual attraction inside for years, and said that years back, he had been at a store when a bomb had gone off, and he saw a woman sobbing and she was all alone, and he wanted to comfort her, but he was in freeze state, just stuck, and he couldn't go help her. And so then he was asked, is there something your body wanted to do if it could have, but couldn't because you were in freeze? So he pauses and asks his body, and he says, yes, I wanted to run to her and hug her and comfort her. So in the session, he imagined that, and he felt the physical sensations of what it felt like as he was visualizing, and even used his arms to lift up and imagine. So you're not just all in your head, you're using your physical body to engage that and to feel the physical sensations. And he completed and released that stuck energy. And then the next week, he suddenly had this freedom, and he went and asked a man on a date for the first time, and was living more authentically to what was stuck inside in another area of his life. For me, I'll give two examples that are more of a practitioner coaching side. I had a lot of people pleasing that in the first years of life coach school, people are saying I stopped people pleasing. I stopped perfectionism by changing my thoughts, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Why can I not get over this? And it turns out some of it was related to OCD, and some of it had trauma responses under it. And so some of it with somatic experiencing, I was able to go back and see some experiences where a certain person who was much bigger, taller than me, was doing things that were not okay with me, and I didn't stand up for myself or my child. And it happened multiple times. And I remember very clearly how that felt in the moment and afterwards for days. And that then comes back, and I go into freeze in other situations instead of speaking up for myself. So when I was trying to process this in an SE session, one of the techniques is try to verbally say no like you never did. So can you try to say that out loud? Or could you put your hand out and say no and, put it up? And I would try those, and like the word literally wouldn't come out of my mouth. I'm like, I'm a big talker, but like when I'm thinking about that, it was like, no, like it would not come out. And I couldn't say it. And so I'm visualizing this. And so we're just kind of playing around with, okay, can I feel the feeling? Then we would go into a comfortable feeling. Then we'd come back into the discomfort. And my body wanted to get up. And so I literally stood up and I got myself taller and I put my arms out, like Wonder Woman. This was just my body pushing me to be bigger and taller. And so I kept trying to say no with my hand out in front of me, and no, like no is kind of a whisper. And then I like instinctively put my hands up really tall, and suddenly I felt big enough. And I brought my hands down this way, and I started to say no louder and louder and louder as my hands are stretched out in front of me. If you're not watching on YouTube, I put my hands above my head and then I put my hands in front of me. And then suddenly I just could yell it really loud. And, I cried, and it just felt so amazing to say and do what I couldn't do before. And then it shifts how I experience other experiences in the future. Same thing with my daughter's birth, my very first birth. There was a lot of trauma with the birth. And there were a lot of things that I didn't get and that I couldn't speak up for. Some I was on a medication for 12 hours before and after birth that made me loopy and weird, and things happened that were not okay with me. And so I was able to go back and reimagine that, feel physical sensations that were really uncomfortable, ride through them, and then create different things and just redo some very tender experiences. So it really is this empowerment approach to restore this sense of I can, and I'm in charge, and I have agency and self-efficacy and confidence, and to control their motivation, behavior, and environment.
It's so beautiful just to even listen to you explain, because in your experiences, right? Like the experience that you shared with you and your birth, the birth of your first child, like you can see the pain when you talk through it, and then you can see it release when you talked about, the experience of doing it. So it's really fascinating just to even be a fly on the wall to watch you re-talk about it.
That's interesting. You can see that. Yeah. And that was 26 years ago,
Yeah.
right? And I think it was two years ago in one of my trainings. Like it was just one of those triads in the afternoon. We were processing medical surgery type hospital traumas. And when it was my turn, I was like, I don't have any of those traumas. And then suddenly that birth popped into my head, and I was like, oh, I guess I do. And then it turned out to be this highly significant thing.
Interesting.
But I never realized, I need to process that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the most basic concepts for somatic experiencing is what's called SIBAM, SIBAM. And it's an acronym for sensation, image, behavior, affect, and meaning. And those are one of the skills we use to monitor and track what's happening in the client. So sensation is what they're feeling physically, like we talked about, inside your body or externally. Image, what they're seeing in their mind. The behavior, what the physical body is doing. Affect is where the emotions or the felt senses. And then the meaning, what the thoughts and beliefs they're adding to it. So we talked about interoception on the inside of your body. And I was going to ask you, from an interoceptive or felt sense inside of your body, can you notice anything right now? Not external, internal.
Yeah. I mean, I have a little bit of tightness in my like core, but I can't really attribute. I mean, I don't really know
You
what
don't have to
that
know what it
is.
is. You
Yeah,
don't have
but
to
I
make
can,
sense.
but
Don't
I
make
can
sense
kind
of
of
it. Don't
feel
hold your
that.
brain. Just see if you can locate it.
Okay. Yeah, I can locate it.
Yeah. And then what percentage of you feels like you're in your body right now?
I'm I am a brain person.
Yeah, so
So
probably a low number.
yeah, it is a low number. Like, do you want me to give you an exact
Yeah,
number?
sure. And there's no right or wrong, just a guess.
Yeah, no, I would say maybe like 15%.
Sure.
Like
That's just
yeah.
a number for us to go with. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the next concept is exteroception, meaning our perception of stimuli from the external world. So our five senses, our hot, cold, pain, any information from the surrounding environment. So that information is crucial to help us adapt and interact with our surroundings. So can you now find something with your exteroception sensation, something in your environment? And you might need to open your eyes because this is that
All of
sight,
it.
smell. What can you hear, taste, touch? What can you see around you? Do you notice anything that you sense or that you're interacting with in
Yeah,
your
the flies, first of
the
all, the
flies?
flies that have been with me the whole
Uh-huh.
time.
Yeah.
Um, but other than, I mean, I'm looking out my window, so I feel like I'm interacting with nature just in a visible
So
way, right? I
visually.
can, yes,
Huh?
so I
How
can see
about
my,
the chair you're sitting in? See if you can connect with that a little more with a felt sense.
okay. Yeah,
Can you actually
I can feel
feel
myself
the
sitting here.
connection? Can you then lean into it and feel it holding you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe with your actual hands, touch something and notice the texture.
Okay.
Smooth, bumpy,
It's smooth and cold. I'm touching the arms of my chair.
smooth and cold. Yeah, notice that with your hands. So you've noticed your back, under your bottom, your legs, your hands, your eyes. Now, what percentage of you feels like you're here now?
Oh, it's gone up probably like 30,
Yeah, a
35, maybe.
little more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if I was in a session with you, we would keep going deeper and deeper and help you to build the capacity to be more in this moment with all of
hmm
these senses.
hmm
So we'll add one more, proprioception, the body's sixth sense, which is a subconscious awareness of our body's position in space around us. So, like if I close my eyes and I move my arms up above my head, I know where they are. I can
Right.
feel that. I know where they are. Or like I can tell where I am in connection to this room here with my eyes closed,
hmm
or when I'm sitting or standing. So it's a movement or a force exerted by muscles, even without looking, knowing where you are or where your limbs are with your eyes closed. So it's sensory information from muscles, tendons, and joints. And it works by using receptors in those muscles, tendons, and joints to send signals to the brain. So it helps us with coordinated movement, balance, fine motor control. It's essential for all of our movement, walking, reaching, sports, walking on uneven surfaces, adjusting our posture. So we would tune into that as well to help us understand what's happening again in the present moment and to process things. So go ahead and try this if you're willing to take your arms and with your eyes closed, just move them up and down, but don't try to do it from your arms. Like let the spine try to lift them, which sounds kind of funny, but you're just imagining it's almost like you're flying, but your arms are moving up and down and up and down. It's not like you're trying to lift your arms, but it's just happening. And what we're doing is trying to experience proprioception and change how we're experiencing this. Having a little bit of sympathetic nervous system, if you go a little faster, then you're starting to feel some activation in your body. And do you start to feel, try to increase the speed a little bit so that you start to feel some warmth or some heart rate. And do you feel that connection? Like I know where my arms are in my body.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah. And then are you also starting to feel any activation like in your core or in your arms that they're changing how they feel
Yes.
because you're moving? Yeah, go
hmm
ahead and stop and then just observe the sensations in your body. And then again, what percentage of you is here right now?
That's definitely more, like probably 60.
Oh, that's huge difference.
Yeah, that was a big difference because I could feel my muscles activating. Like I could still, it was like a continued sense in my arms and in my core from doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just some more skills and methods to help us use those skills. So
hmm
the sensation we were talking about for the SciBAM and then image using memories of what we see in our mind or what we imagine, the behavior, the affect, and the meaning. So those things there. And then the two other main concepts that I'll mention quickly is titration and pendulation. So titration and pendulation are, well, pendulation is a word that Peter coined, and titration he's the first one to use it in this context, but it's the rhythm or the pace or how much at a time. So we're breaking down overwhelming experiences into small, manageable parts. So it's the process of feeling into trauma-related distress in small incremental amounts so that the actual physical sensation doesn't overwhelm. So we don't want to overwhelm the body or reactivate. And then you pair that with pendulation, which is the movement back and forth between dysregulating and regulating through time, so that sensations become less triggering and you become less affected by trauma. So we pendulate back and forth between safety and discomfort, between like parasympathetic calm sensation and sympathetic activation, to build. And it's that moving between that builds your window of tolerance. It's the movement where the healing happens. So again, it's not get to calm and stay there. And we're moving between the story, the emotions, the sensations, the movements, the memory, between polarities. And so this slinky demo shows how energy gets trapped. So trauma is this highly energetic response. So I'm wiggling a slinky if you're not watching. And so if we just move it normally, this is just us walking gently in our lives. And I didn't make up this demo. Peter Levine, this is his. This just is normal walking, doing daily things. And maybe this is us working out and exercising. And this is normal. But then if we get threatened, the slinky's moving really fast and sometimes out of control like this. And lots of energy is mobilized in our system. But what happens when it's really big like that, we tend to get locked down. And that's when the trauma gets us stuck or frozen in one of those fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And the energy is held in compression and it can't be released. And we're frightened of that energy. And it takes a lot of energy to hold this locked down. I have my hand over the compressed slinky. And that's how we can get such painful symptoms from trauma. And so the fragments of the sensory body memory are stuck inside. And so what happens in healing is you bring the sensory experiences together in a coherent way while slowly discharging the energy. So it's not about getting the memory or even the effect of the memory, but the amount of energy the memory has released and integrated into your organism. So that's the key in discharging the energy. And so if the energy is released all at once, like that's chaotic and that can trigger people. And that's what happens when people do get triggered. And the healing method, again, is to find a way to safely release the energy gradually. And so if I just pick this up just slowly, do you see the wiggling that's happening? Even with just a little, there's energy in there and there's wiggling. And so we want to titrate and do just a little bit and stop and just a little bit and allow that energy to have movement until we can have a full integration back into the nervous system. And that's what allows it to reset. So you can have access to that life energy, because you're not supposed to be suppressing or locking down energy. And we don't have access to just enjoy our life if we're doing this, like compressing this down. And so then the last demo is this Hoberman sphere. Peter uses this toy to explain pendulation. The sphere's natural rhythm is what we experience in our body between expansion and contraction, mobilization of energy and arousal, and immobilization of energy and rest. And this is the healthy flow, flexible flow of a nervous system, what this is representing. And so the opening and closing is that expansion and contraction that we are just experiencing every day, all the time. Sometimes we're really expanded and sometimes we're really constricted. So then trauma comes along and then bang, we get shut down or constricted and we lack the normal rhythm of the expansion and contraction. So we're bracing for impact and we're self-protecting. And if we don't integrate that into our life, we stay stuck in this state. So then we want to practice the natural rhythm of moving between expansion and contraction. This is the pendulation back and forth, helping it flow. So, but that feels very scary to someone who thinks those situations or those sensations are dangerous. But we learn that if we can lean into the contraction, right after that comes an expansion. And right after the expansion comes a contraction. Even if it's really tight, and even if it's really big, it still has flow. And so they can go from that state and realize that they can do that. And the people like who are living their lives fully and creatively, they're able to feel so much expansion. And so truly helping people to lean into the expanded positive experiences or comfortable emotions is where we lean first, because it's actually really hard for them to do that. Which it seems strange, but it's hard to allow yourself to do that when you're stuck in the
Mm-hmm.
other. And so,
No, I can totally see that.
yeah, you can totally see that. And so
Yeah.
then, yeah, so we just, if we can help clients attend preferentially to positive experience, then it can build the capacity to be with that. And so I was just going to invite you to look around your room there and see if you can find something that you appreciate, something that is you just appreciate looking at with your eyes. Do you find
Mm-hmm.
something?
Yeah.
And allow yourself to fully appreciate it with your whole self in this whole body now that you've tended to in a new way. I'm just really curious, what does it feel like? What is the experience in my whole body, in this whole room, to appreciate this?
It feels kind of freeing, if that's a word, a way that I could describe it. It feels safe.
Mm.
It also feels inviting, I think.
So all those words you gave me were beautiful, and they were mental descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And see if you can give me a physical
Yeah.
description to tie with it.
Um, give me a word of what a physical description would be so that I
Yeah.
can have a better
So
understanding.
your felt sense, like what in your body tells you that you feel free? How do you know that you feel safe and open and free? So the
Okay.
physical word might be soft and soft.
Okay.
It might be, I feel kind of heavier in my chair, or I feel my shoulders feel lighter, or I feel just kind of able to move. I don't feel like I need to move, but I feel like I can.
Yeah.
Like
I feel like a lightness in my jaw. I don't know if I could like something feels it doesn't feel as tight
not as tight in your jaw.
in my jaw, which is interesting. But it seems like I feel my legs more
In
than I did
a
before.
more I'm in my legs, or a positive or a negative sensation.
More like my legs are a part of me. They're not like, it's not
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah. I'm
they're
more
just
connected
there. I'm more
to my legs. I
connected.
can actually feel them. So
Yeah,
what you're doing is you're becoming more in this present moment and more connected to your whole body
right.
by allowing a positive thing that you're appreciating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then if we were doing an SE session, we would then pendulate into something that's uncomfortable and then come back.
Okay. Okay. That's I was curious. I'm glad that you showed me that or did
Yeah.
that with me because I was curious what that looked like actually to pendulate from something.
Yeah. And we would go deeper, like I'm
Right, right,
over time, but
right,
we would go deeper kind of like we did with each percentage, and we would find
right.
ways for you to feel even more and then to be more willing and more able,
Yeah.
capacity. Yeah.
So fascinating. Jill, thank you. Anytime I have you on, I always learn things a little bit outside of what I've learned before, what has been my past experience, and I always really appreciate the opportunity to gain some, I don't know, a new experience and the new words. I feel like too, like a different way of sharing or expressing, and so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for
Before
your
we head off
curiosity.
today, if I'm not, there curiosity is there's a lot of things that I'm not, but I do enjoy being curious about
Yes, no,
things.
you're very, very good at that, and I appreciate it.
Um, Tell me before we leave how people can connect with you.
Yeah. JillFreestone.com is my website, and Jill Freestone Coaching is my Instagram. It's the easiest way.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll link to all those things in the show notes. I appreciate it once again. And, if anybody has questions, reach out to Jill because I'm sure like this is for a lot of people. Like you said, there's a lot of practitioners. What did you say, like 30,000 in the world? But
Yeah.
many people still have no idea what this is. So I'm sure she'd be willing to answer any questions that you have if you have any regarding this somatic experiencing. So thanks, Jill. Thank you to our listeners, and we will see you again next time. Hey, we just wanted to thank you for spending part of your day here with us at Latter-day Life Coaches and being part of this conversation. Share this with your friends so that you can have a conversation with them on this topic as well. And as always, subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Have a good one, my friends.